Today we are joined by my brother. He is an 11 to 14 wins player in Champs, which is a very similar level to a lot of you guys that watch the video. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to break down this level of gameplay and then give pointers on how you can hit those higher ranks. Let's get into it. So before we get into the game, I just want to see what sort of tactics Jack is using to be hitting those sort of ranks that he is hitting. So it looks like you've ran with a 4-2-3-1. What's the logic? Why have you gone for that formation? Why do you normally run that formation?
So I usually run this just because I'm generally comfortable playing in this formation and I know where the passes are.
So it's just more about knowing where those passing angles are. Okay. Is it something that you would say you find more defensively strong, more attackingly strong, or do you just generally find it to be very balanced?
I find it to be quite balanced, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's going for a very balanced formation. As you can see, I'm running with the 4-3-2-1 because, you know, we're rats over here. So jump over to your tactics tab. Let me see what you've actually set up there. So you go in defensive style balance, so you don't want any kind of auto press. Your team width is on 40. That's very sensible. I think mine's actually on exactly the same. Your depth, 50. Is there any reason you haven't put that higher or lower?
So, yeah, I've messed around with the depth a lot and I've struggled to find something that works. So I tend to go in the middle of the range.
It's just play it safe.
Yeah.
I generally would always recommend going a little bit higher just because the higher you put that depth number, there's a built-in auto press and overload ball side in this game from around the mid-40s in depth. So the moment you bring that all the way up anywhere to 70, it just makes that auto press stronger. Then the moment you go 71 or higher, you get the automatic offside traps as well. Now, automatic offside traps can almost be to your detriment sometimes. So I would always recommend going with the depth around 55 and upwards, but we'll run with this first game on 50 just so I can see how it works for you. What have you got your build-up play chance creation on? So balanced direct passing, I'm assuming you've just heard this is the meta.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you haven't really toyed with anything else?
No.
Fair enough. We can't blame him. So width, why have you gone for a higher width? I think you're serving a 4-2-3-1 with a higher width, to be fair.
Yeah, I find that it just plays with the formation well.
You've got an emphasis out wide. You want that width. That's fair enough. I can't knock that. And players in the box, you've gone bang down the middle at 5. Why have you done that?
I've just found that that's a good balance.
What you guys will find, so you're saying it's a good balance. What you'll find is if you have the players in the box around 4 or 5, you don't get too many people pushing up, so you've got lots of options in your build-up, so it's a lot easier for the build-up play. You'll notice a lot of top players run 6-7. Now that forces more automatic runs, which is great, but you have to be able to find those passes. Sometimes you can find yourself deep in your own half with no one to actually advance the ball with. So it's a bit of a preference thing. You'll generally see people running 5 or 7 these days, sometimes in 6, to try and get the best of both worlds. But I personally do agree with my brother here. I think 5 to sort of lean into that build-up play, trigger the runs yourself. I'm assuming you know about L1 runs, like if you hold L1. So again, kind of leaving more of the runs in your own hands, not kind of letting the AI run away with it too much, just trying to keep in control, let the build-up be that bit more comfortable. That sounds absolutely fair enough. Okay, last but not least, the player instructions. What are you running on your 4-2-3-1? What have you got on the front 4?
So I've got no specific instructions on the front 4, just stick with it in default. Okay,
so you don't feel the need to force anything there. Do you not tell the wide guys to come back, maybe?
No, I haven't. I haven't really done that this year. I've done that on previous games, but
you like the out balls, this year. Okay, fair enough. What about your central defensive midfielders?
So I've got these on stay back, cover centre.
On both.
On both.
Okay, so you've got like a real dedicated front 4 then, and then 2 anchors in midfield. Okay, fair enough. That's pretty kind of standard for a 4-2-3-1. If you ever found you were a bit open on the defence, you obviously could put those wide cams on stay back, come back. On defence, just so it kind of they drop off a bit more, but that is personal preference. What about your wing backs? Are they just on stay back?
So they're on balanced overlap.
On both sides?
On both.
On both?
Yeah.
So he's going to be absolutely trying to flood me on the attack with balanced overlap on both sides. I personally wouldn't ever go more than 1 unless I was using like a 4-1-2-1-2 narrow where you haven't got wide players without doing that. But it's an interesting take. We'll see how it works in game. That's enough yapping about the tactics. Let's jump into some gameplay and see how these tactics play. So here we get into the first game that me and my brother played. It's worth noting that I'm going to be going through the whole game here, talking about things that the 11 to 14 wins player and my brother could have done better, things he did good, and then I'll also be talking about things that I'm doing that do get the better of him in these games. But overall, if this is too long-winded, kind of watching full games as I do the breakdown, by all means just skip to the bits where we talk in between the games, where I sort of summarise things that he did good, things he did bad, and so on. But as we get going here, as you can see, I'm just switching the ball. I'm just looking for that spare man, particularly emphasised on that style because I was running a 4-3-2-1. I ran the 4-3-2-1 for this video with my brother purely because most people that get 11 to 14 wins, the people they lose to more often than not will be using this kind of setup. So I was just emulating that. Recently I've been running a 4-4-2 actually a lot, which is the one I'm enjoying most at the moment. But I thought just as a true sort of test of 11 to 14 win player against a better skilled player, 4-3-2-1 was just the formation and setup that made the most sense because it's the one that is kind of the most generic, the one you're going to be coming up against most. As you can see here, I've got him pinned back. His defensive shape here is actually quite good, and I think that is fair to say for most 11 to 14 win players. I feel like most people, once you get into that level, are somewhat competent at defending. I think the only point you start to see a skill difference in defending is when it comes to the right stick switching and not panicking when someone's in your final third. My brother there deals with that one absolutely fine. And what's good from him here, he's taking his time. Got a bit unlucky there. The AI sort of got in his way. You can't blame him for that, but he cut off the pass really well. Now, there, I wouldn't have liked to see him turn into me. I'd have much rather seen him sort of play the ball back, switch it to a wing back, and then maybe drive the byline. As you can see here, because he's already lost the ball once, he's already rushing. He's panicking, trying to get the ball out the back. And it's really important when you get the ball back, you value the possession, you take your time. You don't want to be rushing the ball out of the box like he was just there. And I think he does a fair few more times there. Like, again, plays a bit of a loose pass. Just play the safest pass possible. Keep the ball. Make the opponent work for it. Here, in the actual gameplay right now, that's actually what I'm telling my brother. I'm saying to him, when you get that ball back, value the possession. Don't give it away straight away. And he makes note of that. And we catch him there with a really, really good finesse shot, to be fair. What I'm explaining to him here is the only way you're really stopping that, if I've got the angle open and you can't cover it in time, is to double tap triangle. Again, a mechanic I feel like I don't see anyone under 14 wins use. Double tapping triangle will centralise the goalie, meaning that they can catch travellas and finesse shots. If you double tap the triangle but hold it on the second press, they will actually rush out of their goal in a straight line. So if you ever watch a pro game where someone's looking like they're going to cross the ball in, you just see their goalie sort of dart across the box but not at the ball carrier, you might wonder how that happened or what they're doing, but that is what they're doing. They're double tapping the triangle button, or Y if you're on Xbox, and then holding it to rush the goalie out. But to stop the finesse shots, it's not necessary to hold it. You can just do the double tap. And this is the big difference here. You can see when I've got the ball back, I don't run into the opponent. I keep the ball and I make sure most of the time I'm making something, at least creating some form of chance off of each possession. He put the ball off well there, which sent it out for a throw. So here, just looking for those passes inside. If I haven't got them, I'm doing skill cancels and doing skill moves. Not rushing. If we have to turn around like so, then so be it. We don't need to rush. There, I get a little ambitious with the cross, but the best bet then would have been just to play it back. He does a good little press there with Saka and wins it back fair and square. That's no fault of mine. That's just good play from him. But again, that press, he rushes a bit and plays a loose pass. In those situations, you just got to turn around, play it back, and switch it if necessary. The reason people don't like switching this game is because it is effective. It is the one way around a press. So don't feel like a rat for switching it. Honestly, sometimes it is just the difference between losing the ball in a bad position and not. And that is ultimately what it comes down to. So there, we've done a good press. You'll notice I press stronger than my brother does in this gameplay. Press is a big part of improving your game because you make people uncomfortable. You can make good players play a lot worse than they're capable of just by pressing them well. My brother's a good player at this game. I mean, 11 to 14 wins is no slouch. Like, you've got to be good at the game to get that sort of finish as it is. That is a good finish from me there. Here I'm explaining to him the only way, once I got the ball back, he was really going to stop it was just to manually move the goalie. But that's always dicey because, as you know, someone can always go to the other post. But ultimately, he would have given himself a better chance. Once I'm in that position, you might as well take a chance with the keeper movement. So here, I like what he's doing here. I'm telling him to drop it back and switch it here. Look how much he's already passed my press. He's almost past my whole midfield line there. That is a loose pass from his player there. That's not his fault. We see how effortlessly he got around a press there just by dropping it back and switching it. Makes an absolute world of difference. It's not ratty if you're doing it to get out. Some people will just constantly switch it thinking they're being clever or that's what they're supposed to be doing. But the idea is to get around the press. Once again, I've caught him with another finesse there, and because he is defending pretty well, that is what I'm having to resort to, which is what you'll see good players do, is when they can't get in, they'll find another way, and that generally is, at this stage of the game, the finesse shots. That central angle, if I can speak, that central angle that I did there is actually one of my favourite angles to hit finesses from, because when you're central, people generally step off you a bit more and give you the space for the shot because a lot of people don't finesse from those central positions. But if you're sort of at a 45-degree angle in the centre of the edge of the D, honestly, you can just hit those finesse shots and they're really consistent. You haven't got to be at that wide angle. That was a bit of a loose pass from me there as well. Seems like there was a few loose passes in this, kind of to no one's fault, to be honest. Maybe it's just the switch from like a normal kickoff mode from Ultimate Team. It is a different sort of pace, but all these things still apply. I'm trying to switch it there. The reason that one was a bit short is because I didn't have anyone with the long ball pass to have at wing back, so the switches aren't great, which is why I would always recommend trying to get the person that you're generally switching the ball with as someone with long ball pass, silver or gold. Gold is obviously preferable, but silver is more than good enough to give the ball enough flight. Here I'm just giving him a little team talk here. Okay. I'm explaining to him here that in the 4-3-2-1, the reason it's such a popular formation is because in the final third, generally, as long as you are picking the right passes, there's always a spare pass on. You generally don't have to be too creative to actually find the spare man. So here, I've pulled my centre-back out a bit too far there. That's not characteristic of a higher skilled player. I shouldn't be doing that. Although, in all honesty, the reason I'm probably being a little bit sloppier in the defence is because, based on how the game's going, now I've got a feel for how my brother plays, I'm just confident. I feel confident enough to be able to pull out my centre-back and it not to be to my detriment. So here, step over boosting to exploit those spaces. I will link my skill tutorial down below as well if any of you guys want to check that out, where I'm talking a lot about what I do in these areas with the lateral heel to heels, the ball rolls, the step over boost. There's lots of things you can do to make the most of these positions here. Really good ping-pong passing, very, very signature of the 4-3-2-1. I get a little fortunate there, but beautiful skill in and around the box. Again, something I don't see a lot of 11 to 14 win players doing is utilising skill moves. You're that kind of level of player, you're generally fundamentally sound, but when it comes to those real tight games, having the ability to add a bit of sauce and really worm your way around your opponent, I think it's really key to have a few skill moves like that in your back pocket, just to have that bit more unpredictability in that final third, you know. But here again, I'm falling a little, but I'm not rushing. You notice how here, if there's nothing on, just here I'm explaining to my brother here is that how the auto press and overload ball side works. So he was finding it difficult to switch it and the wing back actually be free to collect the ball. So I was showing him there, if you just hold the ball for a few seconds, you'll see how his team pushed over to one side and then isolated my wing back, and that's when you switch. Here, again, winning the ball back and being a bit more precious about it. My wing-back made a really good run with that balanced overlap, so I did send that over the top, but it didn't feel like a risky direct ball. That felt like one that was absolutely on. Here, it's all about left stick, skill moves, working the right passes. It was a sloppy back pass from me, but the pressers won us the ball straight back. And we go back to what we were just doing, just taking our time, skill moves to open angles. We're just looking for that spare man, that shooting angle to open up. Flip-flap catches him off guard there. He defended pretty well, but the flip-flap just offset it enough to get past him. Here, realistically, he maybe could have Second man pressed and tried to cover the shooting angle, but it was good play from me. It was just slightly misjudged on the exit of the skill move from him there on my angle. You just got to be passive, try and predict what the opponent's going to do next and not overcommit. So from this kickoff here I'm telling him to play it back to his wing back here because I don't want him to just run into me like he's been doing. So here I'm telling him you can go back. If you need to, you can work it around the edge. You can go for a finesse like he tried there. Bellingham doesn't have the trait, so the shot did come off pretty poor there. So here, won the ball back, and I'm switching it. Trying to find that great bit of space to work into. I'm driving it here with Theo. Feels like he's not going to commit to the byline, so I drive this here. But that is a really, really good cut of the passing lane there. This is something I did notice about that 11 to 14 win sort of level when I was playing my brother, is that the ability to cut passing lanes and defend is fundamentally pretty sound. But the moment I start adding in the skill moves to get the angles that kind of counter him cutting those passing lanes, that's when he kind of didn't have an answer. And that's when it comes into play anticipating what your opponent's going to do rather than just cutting things off. That would have been a nice goal, that one. That was actually a nice try. So here he's saying, I didn't have time to switch it. I had no options. So this is where I'm telling him, you need to play inside or back. Literally, don't be afraid to go back. If you have to go back to then get the space to switch, that is absolutely fine. It's better than running into your opponent. And don't forget, worst case scenario, you can always play it back to your goalie. As wrong as it feels, and as little as you see people do it, if it's necessary to play it back to your goalie switch the ball absolutely fine. If you want to play back to your goalie to do the switch, just do it. It's better than just walking into your opponent and giving them the ball back in their final third. So there, I'm not overcommitting. I'm like, the danger area here is the wing. That's where he wants to go. So I didn't overcommit. So here, he should be driving that byline. He tries to cut inside and play the pass, which isn't a bad idea. But if he wanted to play it inside there, I'd have liked to have seen a player lock, to be honest. And that is probably another mechanic, I would say, I don't see 11 to 14 win level players using much. Player locks give you such a creative freedom to pick passes that aren't on, make runs that aren't being ran, if you like. So here, so I win it back, I play it back first. Make sure I keep that ball. I'm not just going to give it away or risk giving it away. Here we're driving it now down the wing. Now our wing back's committed. And this is where we've kind of got our line of five and we can start our attack here. Driving it forward. Don't know what happened there. My attacker just let it through his legs. But if it weren't for the dodgy animations in this game, I probably would have had a good attack on there. And, so I don't have to be super direct to get in and create that space. So there, he tried the switch first time. And he was lucky that went past my player there because realistically that should have been cut off. Don't be trying to switch the ball first time. You might be able to get away with that with a long ball pass plus. Like some people like to loft it to their wing back and then hit it on the volley for that really long manual pass, which you might have seen some pro players use. But generally, unless you're trying to do something glitchy like that, I wouldn't recommend trying to switch first time, especially without the play styles. Okay. So here, again, big switch because I can see Theo Hernandez is literally just isolated on this side. The overall ball side that's built into this game had already pushed his team over enough for me to be able to execute that. So here, I could have turned into him there, which my brother likely would have done, but I'm not. I'm taking my time. I thought Theo was going to pull through there, so I did make a bad passing decision there. But again, just cutting the lanes, pressing him, trying to make him as uncomfortable as possible to rush, make a rash decision, do a silly pass. But, like I say, a lot of that press just gets nullified by playing the ball back and then switching it. If you do that, you're never really going to be too phased by a press because you'll play around it. Again, lovely fast passing, really signature of the 4-3-2-1. It is one of the easiest formations to find the passes in. And I try a little bit of sauce there, but he reads it to his, in fairness to him. And that is going to be a wrap on this game. Okay, so that was our first game. Sorry, bro. But generally, obviously, I'm playing the meta formation. Like, I utilize all the meta mechanics in this game. So you guys, when you're facing those higher elo players, we're going to try and give you an idea of what you're missing that the higher elo players aren't. So, first and foremost, what did you find difficult about playing me?
One of the hardest bits was trying to play out of the press.
Yeah.
So getting the space to switch it
Yeah.
was the difficult part. So I know if I switch it, I'll be in space.
Yeah.
But actually getting the players to switch it.
Yeah. Okay.
was difficult.
Yeah, I get you. So one thing I was saying to him was that when he was struggling to play out the back, I was just letting him know that overload and auto press generally pulls your team over to one side. So there was always the opportunity for him to switch. And when I was pressing him, if I can speak, when I was pressing him out of having that option, he needs to drop the ball back to then have the switch on, which I know a lot of people don't do online. A lot of people just look forward and then just lose the ball and they feel like they've got nowhere to go. So it's important to know you can move the ball back, then play the switch. Now, something that also will really help with that switch is having players with long ball pass, either the standard play style or the plus. It doesn't really matter. The silver one is more than good enough just to ensure you really get that good flight on the ball when switching. I remember you saying a few times, like, it just wasn't like they weren't hitting it far enough. And that was, I think, because you were hitting it first time.
Yeah.
So make sure you play it back so you've got the time to take that touch and then do your switch. Like, it's absolutely necessary, the switch, to play out of a press, especially against a decent player. So, formation-wise, did you feel like were you lacking anything in the setup? Do you feel like you were exposed too much in the setup? What did you feel about your actual formation? Do you think you'd rather use what I was using, or you need to tweak what you were using?
So I think the main issue I had with this was that my Foden and Saka were really narrow in defence.
Yeah.
And I felt that was just allowing you to run up the wing, and sort of the fullbacks were on their own.
So you want your wide players to stay wide?
Yeah.
And you need them. Do you need them coming back more?
I think positionally they were okay.
Okay.
But they were sitting very narrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if you like this shape, the best thing we can do for the way you play is switch to a 4-4-1-1.
Okay.
Because that way you've got a bit more of a press on me then in the centre mids. We can instruct the wide players to stay wide. Yeah. And then I think we'll up your depth a little bit as well, just so you're getting a bit more of that auto press. So go to your standard 4-4-1-1, which I think is the attack one.
Okay. With the centre forward.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah, click on that.
Yeah.
Go to player instructions.
Okay.
We'll put the main striker on stay central, getting behind, just so you've got someone occupying my two centre backs.
Yeah.
We'll put the cam on, come back on defence.
Yeah.
Which is that? I think it's the first. I think it's the first. No, is it that one? No, it's underneath. Sorry. That one. There we go. Then put your two wide players on come back on defence, which is the first one. And then it's on the chance creation. I think it's stay wide. Yeah. Put that on both.
Yeah. Come back.
Cool. Then your two centre mids, you can leave them as... Oh, no, sorry. It's reset 'cause it's a different formation. So put them on stay back cover centre like you had before in the 4-2-3-1. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, put that on the other one as well. Because I will say, when I was playing through the middle, it was actually very compact. It was hard to get through. So that is definitely a necessary instruction to have that defensive shape in the middle. That was really solid. Then on your wing backs, I honestly would probably... Do you like the overlapping wing back, or do you even really feel like they were getting into play? I didn't feel like you were overloading me in the attack too much.
I didn't feel like...
I would honestly go stay back, overlap, as your run time, just so if they do ever venture forward, they stay wide. Do that on both. And what I would maybe do then is go across to your tactics tab.
Yeah.
I would up your depth to 55 at least.
Okay.
And then scroll down to your players in the box. And just because you've got two stay back wing backs, I'd maybe up the players in the box to either 6 or 7, depending on how much you feel like you need more players getting up.
Okay.
So 6 or 7.
Let's go for it.
You're going to go for 7, okay. Width-wise, were you happy with the actual attacking width? Do you feel like it needed to be narrower, wider?
I felt pretty happy.
I was going to say, I think the positions your players were taking up were okay. Yeah. Didn't really think that was an issue. I felt like you didn't throw enough players at me in the attack, and I felt like the wing backs were probably maybe just pulling out of position a little bit, being unbalanced, but weren't really... It's like they weren't helping on the attack, but they also weren't as robust either. They were kind of like somewhat in the middle, weren't they? Yeah. Okay, just to take you guys through quickly what I'm using. I'm obviously using like a standard meta 4-3-2-1 here. I've got 40 width on the defence, 55 depth, balanced direct passing, 40 on the width, and I've got 5 on the players in the box, so the build-up plays easy because I do have the balanced wing-back, which is natural in this formation. Front three are all stay central getting behind with the left forward on come back. Stay back while attacking cover centre on these two, completely balanced on this one. Stay back on the right back, balance overlap on the left back. So a very standard sort of set of 4-3-2-1 tactics I've just quickly thrown on, just so we get the 3 attackers narrow down the middle. I've got the overlap on the wide side. The 4-2-3-1 is definitely more defensive in its nature, so getting that 4-4-1-1 in for my brother here just to have a bit more of an actual flat midfield line to press with is going to be harder for me to play around. He's also going to have a bit more attacking support with the players in the box up to 7. He also wanted the wide players to stay wide, particularly on the defence, so they're going to be really sticking to the bylines now. So hopefully with this tactical adjustment, it's a tougher game. We can have a bit more of a competitive game here, and with a few of the things I told you about dropping it back and the switch, those sorts of things, when you win the ball back, like, value the possession, don't just play the route one ball, just actually keep the ball and value the ball, make me work for it, I have to work to get it back, you know? And you've also got a bit more of that auto press there as well with the higher depth. So I think that is a really, really solid setup for the way you like to play. Let's get into another game and see how it goes. Into the second game we go. So after that little team talk, some of those pointers with the adjustments my brother's now made on his setup, which I feel will cater it more to his play style, which is a really, really big thing. I really urge you guys to not just follow the meta and feel like that is just the best thing for you. Honestly, I've put loads of different formations and different setups and different tactics to cater for different styles on this channel. Try some, and if you have success with one, by all means run with it, tweak it to your taste, because it's all about finding something that works for you. There's not a one all and be all. Here I'm telling him not to dive in. I don't want him to give me too much space too easy here. I can see now he's really wary of those finesses. Look how he's covering the middle. So he's learned his lesson there. He's defending that really well. He's second man pressing here, covering the inside pass whilst putting pressure on me on the wings, which is absolutely excellent. And you can look, he's not making this easy for me at all. I'm to do power shot, ball rolls and all sorts, trying to make an angle there. But he cuts it off absolutely perfectly, to be fair to him. Really, really well played. And here, he's not giving the ball away too easy. He's playing it back if necessary and then doing the switch. Just these little adjustments, all of a sudden, he's maintaining the ball and he's posing a threat. At this point, I'm probably already thinking, if this is a champs game, okay, this guy's patient, he knows what he's doing here. Obviously, the press gets the better of him there, but a press can nab the ball off the best of players. So here, I've switched it just with a driven pass. And again, he's really compact, he's defending really, really well here. Cutting off that passing lane, he gets unlucky there with the animation. But he plays a really safe pass out, triggers that wing back for an overlap. Just absolutely excellent. This is absolutely night and day from the first game. Don't even think he got in at the final third in the first game, just because I know how to cut out that level of player. But just with these little adjustments, he's already posing more of a threat. Look, he's in my box here, getting a shot off, pressing, unlucky not to get the ball back there. At this point, I'm just sort of emphasising to him that when you're in the final third, really put an emphasis on doing driven passes. And I basically just said to him that in the final third, I very rarely use anything else. Maybe a lofted cross, maybe a ground pass if I'm doing a few quick passes, but generally always going for the driven passes just to get the ball out of my feet and to the next play that bit quicker. Good presser in there to nab that. We added that comeback on defence to his cam, which I think has been a big asset for him there, the way Bellingham tracked back and nabbed the ball. What I'm doing there is just not committing any wingers. I'm putting my emphasis on tracking the runners there. Big, big part of defending against that 11 to 14 win level player, because a lot of people at that skill level generally like to be quite direct and play the ball over the top. I'm utilising that overlap very well. And he knows he's caught me there. He's absolutely wiped me out. What he should have done there is just sprint jockey, LT, RT, and just been covering the kind of most dangerous angle that he had in front of him. He shouldn't have been committing at me there. He shouldn't have panicked. And I've hit the controller from him and found the bottom corner there. A penalty is what it is, but definitely could have been defended better. Just not panicking, covering the most dangerous pockets of space would have been his best bet there for sure. Okay. Just holding the ball here, waiting to see what opens up. Step over boosting. Trying to make him almost get out of my way to cover a pass so I can drive the byline there. Now I'm just being a bit more patient. I'm just working the ball around the edges. But he's really compact. This is not easy to get in. Like, I'm really having to consciously be patient here and not rush because he's defending a lot better. The setup suits him more. Just he's added a few of those mechanics and adjustments where he's not diving in or panicking. That's lovely from me there, I can't lie. So look how creative I've had to get even a shot off at him there because of how well he's actually defending. I believe here I'm just checking if I accidentally put Griezmann in the wrong position because he seemed to be gravitating to the left side of the pitch a lot for some reason, but here he's just asking me about why Griezmann's at centre mid, and I'm just explaining to him that in a 4-3-2, if you guys aren't aware, that you need to have an out-and-out attacker there, and the reason I put Griezmann there is because he has the left-footed finesse shot threat. So that is why Griezmann was in that position, and why I wanted to make sure he wasn't on the other side. I want him on that right side to be able to whip it, which, to be honest, I don't remember, but I might have to use in this game because the way my brother's defending, unless he's going to give me another pen, there's not really going to be too much route to goal, to be honest, because he's defending absolutely fantastic. So to that notion, always make sure you've got at least one finesse shot threat in your teams because sometimes it is literally the only way in. Okay, here he's not pushing in with his wing-backs. This is great. This is good player switching as well. He's covering the most dangerous passes. Now here he needs to run with me here. He shouldn't be too cautious because there isn't really a pass to cut off. Yeah, he should have got ahead of me a little bit more there. Oh, this is terrible. Good defending though. He didn't panic and he pressed the moment the ball was loose on my feet. Really, really good adjustment. And he's got that long ball pass now on Trent. Switching it once my team has pressed over a bit too much, which is exactly what we've been teaching him here. Just these small adjustments are the difference between getting something like 14 and 16 wins, which, in my opinion, in champs, as far as the ranks go, I do think that's the biggest jump. It doesn't sound like a lot, but to get 14 wins, you don't have to win a game at plus 10 ELO, whereas to get 16 wins, you do have to win a couple of games at plus 10 ELO, which is like when you start playing really good players. So it's a 2-win difference, which sounds like nothing, but it is honestly a big jump. If you can get your first 16 wins as an 11 to 14 win player, that is a huge sort of acknowledgement to how much you're improving at the game. There, it's basically just right stick switching for him to have stopped that, but it was a good play. It was quick. So it's some fair play. It's some fair play. It's sort of a moment of fair play to me. It was a good attack, but it could have been stopped with faster right stick switching, but you've really got to be on the ball with that. And to be honest, there's no secret to right stick switching other than you just got to keep trying to do it and you'll get better at it. I'm really lucky in the sense that I've played this game for a long time, and years and years and years ago, before I even knew it was a skill gap, I was just switching with the right stick anyway because I just thought, oh, this makes more sense. I've got more control over who I'm switching it to. So it's second nature to me because I've switched with the right stick for a long time, way before I even knew there was a skill to it, to be honest. It was just the way I went about things. So right stick switching, again, along with the player locks, along with the skill moves into driven passes, these are those little intricacies that are going to make a big, big difference. So here we are into the second half. Obviously 2-0 down, which in some aspect is, I think, fair but also harsh at the same time because he has defended really well. But in this second half, he really needs to show me a bit less respect and just attack me more, which as this gameplay plays out, you'll see he really, really does attack a lot better in the second half. Look at this, already on the wings, doing skill moves, creating angles. He's worked inside there. The first time I think against me, he's done this, and I've just defended that well. Didn't dive in, didn't panic. I'd always, if you're unsure of where to position yourself in the box when someone's really getting in at you and you're sort of panicking, I'd always recommend just put yourself in between the player and the goal. If you're covering that angle, there's not too much that can go wrong, because even if they go left or right, ultimately, it's the goal they're wanting to get at. It's the goal that they're going to shoot at. So if you put yourself in between the ball carrier and the goal, so long as you're not pulling the player too far out of his actual position, you're not really going to go wrong. It's a really, really good sort of way of thinking about it if you're unsure which way someone's going to go there in your box. Just get in between them and the goal, and you won't go too far wrong with that. So here, dropping it back, then switching, because I didn't feel like the switch was perfectly on. So here, again, just pinging it over to our wing back because he's isolated. Again, I feel like to be fair to my brother, he was actually quite on the ball about the wing there. He really committed to it. But beautiful feet from me here. And he did about the only thing he could there once I got past him, which was bring the goalie out. So that was good awareness there that he rushed Pickford out there, to be fair to him. Good step over cancel there from him. But I think because he's talking to me, he's sort of not paying attention. He's lost the ball. So maybe we can make the most of this one. Again, just working around the box. I can see that wing-back's free. I'm very aware of that. But I'm kind of using that as bait to get it into my striker. And that was an audacious attempt. So from the corner here, I think I'm just going to play it short. Just to put my brother in this position as much as possible where you've got someone like myself who does a lot of skill moves, can do the cancels, will find those passes, because when you're coming up against someone at those higher elos, they're not just going to be running at you. They are going to be giving you lots of looks, and it's really important you get conditioned to not overcommitting when that is happening. And that is a lovely skill cancel from me. And I've R1 dribbled there. So if you've got someone with technical or technical plus, even if they haven't got it, if they've just got good dribbling and you just hold R1 whilst you dribble, you'll get that style of dribbling where the ball's really close to your feet. And I know a lot of you probably use that, but honestly, if you're someone that struggles with timing like a ball roll or a la croqueta or a lateral heel-to-heel to get around the goalie, or you don't ever tend to go around the goalie, that is a great entry-level way of actually getting around the goalkeeper, is what I did there. Just R1 dribble, slightly at an off angle to the goalie, and as he comes out, just keep R1 dribbling and go around him. The goalies just drop on the floor when you do that, especially if you've got technical, and even more so if they've got technical plus. There's just something about that sort of R1 dribbling that the goalkeepers just get baited by and then just commit to, which is excellent because you can get around the goalie really consistently with it. So again, my brother's doing a lot better here. Look, he's giving me multiple looks, left stick dribbling, using skill moves. He's literally in at my 6-yard box here. Honestly, was worth having a shot there. Don't get trigger shy. Even if you're up against a good player and you feel like, I'm not getting many chances, I've really got to almost walk it in the net. If you can see the goal, just have a shot, because more often than not in this game, with how jammy it is, even if you're in a position where you're not going to score, the goalie could make a save and you'll just get like an open goal rebound. The amount of times I concede those, it's just kind of ridiculous, really. So by all means, shoot on sight. If you manage to get in like my brother did there, don't be too precious about it. Don't overthink it. This is lovely work for me, and that is a fantastic finish. And that is that finesse shot once again from a central position. And that is really, really like a salt in the wounds there for my brother, because he was attacking really well, created a pretty much guaranteed goal scoring opportunity, didn't pull the trigger, and then I've hit him on the counter attack and caught him with that finesse shot once again. So that is very unlucky, but it just shows you just those little small differences are the difference between like my brother, who's like an 11 to 14 win player, and then someone like myself who is like 16 plus. It's just one of those things where he should have pulled the trigger. He would have got it back to 3-1. He hesitated. I counter-attack. I didn't hesitate. I just hit that finesse from that angle I know works. And once again, I found the back of the net. It's a game of small margins, especially at the higher levels in this game. Honestly, it generally comes down to who makes the less mistakes wins, I find. Which is why I put such an emphasis on not losing the ball when you do win it back. Because the amount of goals, if you watch your weekend league runs back, you've conceded by just giving the ball away unnecessarily because you're rushing. You'd be surprised how often it happens. Even me, when I was getting really good finishes in champs, but like I was still giving the ball away silly. And since I've been more disciplined with it, I'm finding myself in way less games that are tight. Like, even though I'm better than like an 11 to 14 win player, like that's a level of player that can still give you a game if things go their way. But the moment you're disciplined with possession, you're not rushing, you're doing this like ball-driven passes, you're using player locks, you're utilising skill moves. The moment you're very disciplined, you're more creative in the final third. you get to a point where the gulf between the level you're at and that 11 to 14 win level is too much for them to really ever get the better of you. And that's where you need to get to in champs, to always exceed the 14 win mark. I've gone for the absolute spectacular there to end the video on an absolute bomb. I don't think he was too happy with that one. But once again, that is going to be a wrap on this game. So, you conceded 1 goal less.
Yeah, an improvement.
No, but in all seriousness, like, that was evidently harder for me. Like, when I was playing, I was really having to work for the opportunities. It felt like his shape was a lot better. So, I think just realising that tactics are definitely an element in the ranks that you get that can be a difference in itself without even actually making any improvement on your gameplay, just by having the shape a little bit more to your liking, a little bit more inclined to a press, and not having any defenders committing that don't need to, that aren't really giving you like a true benefit like I get with the left back in the 4-3-2-1. Just the tactics alone, your shape made you a lot harder to break down, and you probably felt like it was a lot harder for me to get in as well. Despite the fact I still managed to score a few, I felt like I was still having to do a lot to get those goals.
Yeah, and I felt like the tactic allowed me to play the game a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's like, in the last game, I was like, I'm just not getting any chances where I can do anything.
Yeah.
Whereas in this game, I did have some opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was a point in the game where, like, it was super unlucky for you not only to not have scored, but then I got you on the counter-attack, which is just this game in a nutshell, really. But yeah, so tactics, clearly a big factor. So it's really important for you guys that you find a shape that you like and then think, how can I tweak the shape, tweak these instructions to complement the things that I'm missing in my game? And that's what switching to the 4-4-1-1 attacking variation did for my brother here a lot better than the 4-2-3-1 did. So shape, tactics, instructions, a big factor. So in terms of the attacking, how did you feel going forward? Because obviously I managed to still keep a clean sheet. So what did you feel was hard about the attacking? What were you struggling with exactly?
So I was distributing the ball to the wingers, and I was able to get into the final third on the wing.
Yeah.
But then getting into a position where I could shoot or I could pass it to someone in the centre was basically impossible because you were just cutting those passing lanes.
Yeah.
So that you'll see the clip with Foden.
Yeah.
I just went on a really long dribble, and that's because I didn't have any passing lanes.
So the thing that will really complement a game there. So if you guys also is like an 11-14 wins player like my brother, if you find yourself in that wide position like he was against me and he just couldn't get in, it just felt like I was cutting off all his options. The key then is to effectively be able to find the pass for an option that isn't on. And the way you do that is by not just trying to do a driven pass into them, but doing stuff such as a ball roll before you do the pass. So I'm cutting off the lane, but if he does a ball roll to change the angle, then instantly does a driven pass. I haven't got time to react to that. He's creating the angle for himself. So in those wide positions, the things you need to be looking to do more is ball rolls. There's a trick with L1 and R1 where if you flick the right stick, it will start the skill move, but if you press pass halfway through, it cuts it off. So it almost looks like a drag back pass. I'll show you that one another time. But ball rolls are the most key one, but you can also do a la croqueta and press pass halfway through, so they drag the ball wide, and then you can play the pass. It's all about, if you haven't got an option, you need to create the angle and then drive the ball into that angle you've created as soon as you have, so it cannot be cut off. So in those high elo games, those games that are the difference between you getting something like 14 and 16 wins, it does take you to use those extra little intricacies like ball rolls before your driven passes in order to actually make the most of those opportunities. I hope this video helps you guys that are around that 11-14 win mark see some of the things that you can add to your game in order to hit those higher ranks. If you want to check out a more in-depth video on the sort of things we were just talking about, such as the driven passes off of ball rolls, you can check out this video here, which breaks those things down in much bigger detail. But if you did make it this far in the video, guys, as always, I really appreciate your time and my brother's for coming along and letting me beat him a couple of times. But as always, guys, if you did make it this far in the video, we both really appreciate your time. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and turn your bell on. Take care, guys.